Hi, I'm Francis Hellier, and welcome to my brand new podcast, Metaverse. This is a podcast for the future-minded, a series for anyone on the hunt for the next big thing and all its possibilities and implications. This is Tomorrow's World Today. With each episode, I will chat to those at the top of their fields, from futurists in crypto and space travel to forecasters in business and tech. Together, we will ask the question, what's next? Today, I'm joined by Nathan Phillips, co-founder and director of concept design at Technologies, Humans and Taste, also known as THAT. As co-founder of THAT, Nathan has led the development of a specific form of methodology in proprietary collaboration. Proprietary collaborative methodology, which invites diverse and unfamiliar collaborators to co-create innovative concepts for any medium, leveraging AI to supercharge any idea. Beginning his career as an interactive artist, he has held a variety of roles, from creating interactive experiences for Broadway legends in Vegas to showing interactive films at Sundance and the Tribeca Film Festival. He has spent the last decade using his experience as an artist to collaborate with brands such as MGM, Google, Sotheby's, and Condè Nast to create campaigns designed to create desire in humans and give people their own stories to tell. Well, Nathan, that sounds fascinating. I'm delighted to have you on Metaverse.
Oh, well, I mean, it is quite a thrilling idea to talk about on a podcast, something as big and as relevant as the opportunity to visit the spatial web forever and ever. So really excited.
Well, delighted to have you on. Let's start with Technology, Humans and Taste. Tell us about the journey and, where did the inspiration come from?
It was born for me out of a couple of factors. One, I kind of grew up as a creative person, as an improvisationalist. I was somebody who, like, from a very young age, didn't necessarily party. I didn't drink in high school. I did improv in a black box theater 3 times a week. And this idea that you could be in a big blank empty space, and if you understood the parameters by which people existed there, you could make up absolutely anything, really kind of informed the way I think that I navigate the world, and specifically technology, this idea that being able to make a choice and have an impact, and for other people to see that come to life, just really exciting. So my path kind of took me as a writer. I've written a book, written television. I'm an Emmy Award winning filmmaker, and ultimately, I really fell into this idea that the most important part of making stuff up is choice. For so long, we as a culture, as a human race, have been focused on telling stories. And all the stories are in the past tense. All the stories are about heroes and gods and other people, but kind of born out of that improv idea, like, what if all the stories were happening right now? And what if all the stories were able to grow and change as we made different choices? So my previous gig was at Google at the Creative Lab. And when I left, I was walking down the street here in Brooklyn, New York City. And it hit me that there's a word, that is a very special word, which is that. And that is a special word because it's the word that you use to describe something that you want. I want that. It's the most primal expression of desire. But it's also the word you use to describe something you've never seen before. Look at that. What the F was that, right? And so that became this kind of really cool thing to start seeking out. So to answer your question, when we started the company, I was really interested in this idea of creating worlds or narratives, big empty black boxes where anything could happen, where we would be able to place things that people desire and give them a choice to pursue it. And in doing that, really build worlds where people could make choices and watch stories come to life all around them. And they could always be at the heart of it. And so Technology, Humans and Taste is a way to kind of think about the way we see the world, right? There's technology, there's opportunities to interact and impact the world around you. There are humans, right? Emotional, organic beings that connect with emotion and wants and their own kind of faulty interface with the universe. And then taste, which is the craft. It's the point of view that makes things artful. And using those skills and those parameters, we try to fill the empty black box that we live in with beautiful stuff that people desire and build worlds where they can make choices and impact the story.
Now, obviously, your experiences as a improvisationist and creative have a significant influence on these ideas. Can you maybe extract some of that out for us so we understand, where you've got to where you are today as a consequence of your background?
So in the old days, when you're watching a movie, the choice you can make is, do I want to go to the movie? And maybe do I want to get popcorn? But for quite a while now, we'll just put in the box of new media, whatever we're going to call it, or go as far as XR, provides a new thing, which is the opportunity to make a choice. And when you make a choice, that is like in an improv experience, it's a yes and. It's a, ooh, what if we tried this? So a lot of the skills as a storyteller that I learned as an improvisationalist and a creator of immersive theater are now incredibly relevant to the world we're building around us, where media actually invites you in and offers you a choice. So in many ways, as a writer, I've been kind of training and thinking and creating experiences and rules and process for the metaverse since I was 13. And now everything's just really kind of clicking into place.
So tell us about, you worked on the Van Gogh experience. Can you tell us a bit about that and your involvement?
Yeah, for sure. So we collaborate with David Corns, who is an amazing designer on Broadway. And we've made a number of things with him. And when he was designing the New York version, and consequently the versions of the Van Gogh immersive experience that are rolling out, we had a conversation, and I got really into the idea of kind of the act 3. When you go through the experience, you've got these incredible visuals, you're immersed in the world that David's created that brings to life Vincent's work, and you're left with a desire to tell Van Gogh how awesome you thought he is. Because the guy didn't know, no one told Vincent Van Gogh he was amazing, right? He sold one painting. So we wanted to create interactive experiences that allowed you to communicate back to Vincent. So we created 2 things. One was an opportunity to simply write him a letter. Hey, Vincent, wow, man, this was amazing. Or, wow, Vincent, I too struggle with depression. Or, wow, my favorite color is pink. How can I be an artist? And we created a generative art piece using machine learning that actually looked at Van Gogh's work, all his letters, and you could build a letter in response to your letter that actually used the words of Vincent, but wrote directly in response to what you'd written. And then we also created a bunch of layered illustrations that emulate his look and feel and the quality of his brush. And we deliver these letters to you as actual antique paper letters with a little wax seal on it. So you really get the sense that you've interacted with them. And the second thing we made was a gallery experience that you enter in by looking at blobs of paint in augmented reality. On those blobs of paint are written quotes from Vincent. And as you interact with the blobs of paint, they actually congeal inside these paint frames and turn into a 3-dimensional space. You can stick your head in, and rather than just look at a 2-dimensional night cafe, which is a beautiful piece by Van Gogh, you can actually enter into the space and hear the night cafe and look around the corner. So we made art about his art that people could immerse themselves in.
Amazing. And can you describe a little bit around the AI aspect? Obviously, it's significant in attracting audiences to this project. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works?
So when we were creating letters from Vincent, specifically letters from and not letters to, letters from Vincent, we really wanted to make sure that we gave people a truly emotional experience. So when you're crafting something like that, and I've made lots of chatbots, adaptations of books in the past as museum experiences and for brands, the first thing you want to do is don't try to pretend that the robot you've built really understands what it's writing, because it doesn't, right? Generative art that uses AI is incredibly dangerous because it can get superstitious and start to think evil things about humans and repeat words that it shouldn't repeat, take things out of context. So we wanted to create something that was emotional and authentic to Vincent, but also something that wouldn't go haywire and become an evil monster. So basically we created a framework first for the letter, right? So what is, like, if you're gonna finish this experience and write to Vincent and say, hey, this is how I feel about you, or do you have advice, right? We crafted out all the potential ways that people would want to interact with Vincent. And then we created a framework within the letter that would allow him to respond and have it always make sense. So he always pulls certain information from the experience, like where you are, the types of things that you're probably thinking after the experience you just had. And then he looks at your letter and starts to pull relational or kind of thought bubbles out of what you said. From an AI perspective, this is a natural language processing opportunity, and we're pulling from the corpus of data that is his letters, right? So it's limited to his letters. And then the only words that we added in were things that would allow him to connect thoughts. So on behalf of Vincent, we never say how he's feeling. For example, if Vincent talks about how he's feeling, that's from the mouth of Vincent, the actual artist. However, if he's complimenting you on something about the present day, or he has a question for you about what just happened, for example, did you enjoy the exhibit? That would be text that we actually put in the machine and allow the machine to use to actually kind of locate you in the present day and where you are.
Amazing stuff. It sounds fascinating. I think it's an extraordinary project for you to be involved in. And what other projects are you currently working on at that?
Well, we are always, we're always busy. And that is a unique organization because we're structured in a couple different ways. So we work with brands all the time. We've got some very exciting work that's coming out right now. Obviously, the most exciting stuff is the stuff we haven't launched yet. But recently we created a bunch of ads for Signal, the data-free messaging app, which is an incredible company and an incredible piece of technology. And we worked with them on a number of different projects. I think the most interesting of which was around what was formerly known as Facebook and their data practices. So we wanted to help people understand the amount of data that is available to marketers to target them. So we looked at Instagram and we created ads in which we wrote down the information we had. So, hey, it looks like you're a fan of science fiction and you're trying to have a baby. All the things that you can extrapolate from the data available on Instagram. And we put those in ads, and the ads ultimately were posted and then taken down. The account was deleted and none of it was let run. So then a blog post was released and Facebook ended up issuing a response. Why I'm really proud of that work is because it was incredibly authentic to the story and the technology of Signal, which is a company that doesn't want to buy data and you can't functionally do it. But it was a way to raise awareness simply by showing people the power of the technology they use. And that's something that we're really interested in. So we have what we call Data Originals, which is a group in our company that makes work that we say clients aren't ready to buy yet. It's where we prototype future technologies. It's where we play with stuff. It's where we started playing with the generative art that eventually went into Van Gogh. And we just released something we call the Work From Wherever collection. And the Work From Wherever collection was born out of this idea that everyone's going to be thinking about, you know, the technologies and everything that we're going to take with us as we go back to normal life, should this pandemic ever end. And maybe you'll be in the office, maybe you'll be at home, but nobody really knows. So we wanted to make sure people had everything they needed to take what they love about this Zoom interface back into real life. So we created sculptural objects in partnership with the Altimeter Group. It's an amazing design group that we collaborate with. And there's a poured concrete mute button. There's this beautiful wooden Zoom hand that you can purchase for real life. You can choose what type of wood to reflect your skin tone, just like you can on Zoom. And we created these tools to let people actually start a conversation in real life about all these incredible digital behaviors that we've grown over time. And most importantly, we created NFTs of them. Now, why did we create, and this is like the question everyone would ask about everything, why did you make an NFT? Well, the reason we made an NFT, and it's not our first crack at making NFTs, is because when we talk about working from wherever, we can't just think about the reality, the meat space that we exist in with our bodies. We need to think about the digital space, right? The spatial web. And we need to think about what it means to be present there and how you start to correlate the things that you love about real life with the things that you desire about the digital space. So we really tried to make sculptures that you could legitimately take with you into, augmented reality, into virtual reality, and also into R, which is what I refer to as reality, which is where we breathe oxygen and our bodies have a clock.
Nathan, I know you've been involved in a project with the American singer-songwriter Madison Beer in creating a sort of metaverse landscape for or multi-dimensional world for a project. Can you describe your involvement and how that project came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. We collaborate with Sony and have for a number of years now on two video series that we're really proud of. One is called Boundless, and the concept of Boundless was that technology is allowing us to create worlds in such high fidelity that your imagination now can translate directly to an audience. The bounds of your imagination no longer exist. And so we created all sorts of amazing content with wonderful artists like Zaytoven and Cory Berger, who created Gods of War. And around the Madison Beer project, we did a lot of storytelling and documenting of what goes into creating a virtual concert. And the reason it's really important is because creating a virtual concert does happen in multiple dimensions, right? There's the craft of building the 3D avatar and making sure that they can express themselves and emulate human behavior. But there's also, and I think this is what's really interesting, the performance quality of being in a mocap suit and actually designing a character for the metaverse. And that is a skill set that is not native to humans, right? Because part of being a performer is you have costumes, you have makeup, you have lights, you have an audience. And what Madison did so incredibly well, I think, was put on a mocap suit and be able to look into a camera and imagine a virtual space that wasn't there, and really take that energy that she conveys in a real life concert and bring it to the virtual space so powerfully. And it was so cool to talk to her about the moments where she really felt like she was converging into the digital space, leaning on like a pipe in the studio, and then later seeing that become like a rail and a balcony in a virtual version of the Sony Theater. So I think that was a really cool experience to be able to get a deeper understanding of the craft of sculpting a super premium, one of a kind avatar, but also being reminded of how we're all going to have to become performers in the metaverse. When you become a digital being, it's just like putting on a mask for Halloween, and it requires some work.
Bring it on, I say, bring it on. Now let's stick with the metaverse for the moment. Obviously, you've talked about creativity, and I think one of the other sort of things that jumps out in all the things you've talked about is collaboration. Mm-hmm. So perhaps you can describe, how creativity and collaboration will exist in the metaverse, and also what does the metaverse mean to you?
I'll start with my biggest complaint about creativity and the internet. It didn't work out the way it was supposed to, right? And I'll give you a couple of examples. Word processing programs were designed by developers, and developers write code. Developers write lists of things. And if you're trying to write an experience which is nonlinear, if you're trying to create something which is spatial in nature, writing it in a list is not an effective way to create something. So often you find people creating for the digital space using word processing programs or falling right into like Unreal and Unity and trying to like build out these worlds. So first, when it comes to creativity in the digital space, we're missing some tools. And at that, we've worked really, really hard and are really excited because we're going to be launching it very, very soon. At creating tools that allow you to collaborate and explore creative spaces non-linearly. So the power of the spatial web to actually give us the opportunity to be surrounded by our ideas, to have serendipity, to be walking down the street and trip over your own concept because it's just waiting there for you to pick it up. That is so exciting. And that's what computers are for. Right? Computers and the internet were supposed to give us this opportunity to connect over space, to be walking down a virtual street and not do as we're told, not find exactly what we're looking for, but to discover something we never knew was there. So at that, and personally, I really believe that Today, if you're writing for the metaverse, you should be using paper. Like, you have to be doing it using your hand out of order, making squiggly lines and taping stuff up all around you. 2, Miro is cool, but Miro doesn't do the trick, because Miro, the interface, is really challenging and requires so much learning. It mitigates your ability to collaborate and be creative, right? It's an I go, you go type of environment. The next step is going to be a place where you can go and you can sit. A place where you can go and simply by looking around, you can be inspired to have a new idea, to have something unlock that you yourself were incapable of doing alone. And that, I think, is where collaboration is heading in the 3D web. I want to be able to bump into somebody I would never be connected to and find an idea that I never would have been able to have by myself.
Really exciting stuff, Nathan. Thank you for sharing. It's said that you work on projects that evoke human desire. Perhaps you can explain a little bit about that.
Well, I think, one of the, we're surrounded by data. I don't know if you heard. And we're surrounded by an economy that is driven by using that data to slap us in the face with things that people want us to know. And that's what marketing is, and that's what entertainment is, right? We thought you would like this. Perhaps you'd like to watch this. And it's like, I get it. You're telling me what I would like to watch. That is not what I desire. What I desire is what I have not yet found. What I desire is something I'm seeking that no one can quite show me, and I'll know it when I see it. So how do you create experiences that are actually driven by that desire? So when we create stuff, we talk about frameworks rather than a traditional script. Here we wrote a thing. Will you, talent, recite it? What we do is when we collaborate with talent, we create ways for them to play and launching pads. So an example of a desire-driven project was in collaboration with an organization called Black Theater United, which is an incredible organization of Broadway artists. We helped build some videos for the census to raise awareness in marginalized communities about the importance of the census. We got to work with Billy Porter and Misty Copeland. And what we did was we created a Mad Lib. The script basically was use 3 words you would use to describe, that the census would use to describe you, and use 3 words that you would use to describe yourself if you created the census, right? What would you put there to describe yourself? And putting that little piece of desire allowed the films that we made to really spring out with just real powerful authenticity. And these 2 dancers, these 2 incredible artists, use those frameworks to express their own individuality and then invite people to use the census as a platform. So that, to me, is where you take desire and you create a framework where people can use it to empower other people. The reason that's important for the metaverse is because you can create spaces and environments the same way, right? If you play a lot of video games, you know that the story moves forward in the cutscenes. What about the rest of the game, right? What's happening? Shouldn't I be able to change the shape of the world and the shape of the story by actually killing someone? Because often video games, even really big ones, are still on rails. So if you win or if you lose, it doesn't necessarily impact the world all that much. And I really love the idea that we're able to start to learn to write for the spatial web, learn to write to create worlds that are driven by people's desires so they can make choices and actually have an impact, as opposed to just being slapped in the face with the power of big data.
Let's look forward 10 years, maybe 20 years, Nathan. What does the metaverse look like, and what will we all be doing in the future?
Now, do you want to know what I hope will happen or what I think will happen?
Well, let's try both.
Zuck announced the new name Meta. So for anybody who's been working in the world of immersive, amazing stuff, the first thing you thought of was the Meta agency and JB Bolanino and his incredible company that's been around forever, building immersive work for that space. What that makes me realize is that Zuck is a tourist. And so after learning that Facebook has chosen the word meta, which is, in the context of Facebook, I think a corn dog name for them, I'm concerned that we have the wrong perspective. I think we think the metaverse is technology. And the metaverse is a cultural context. It is an opportunity for us to imagine a future and build it to be different than today. Through the lens of speculative design. There's a great book called Speculative Everything, which I really highly recommend, or Afrofuturism. You have the opportunity to imagine a future where the people today that don't have access, the people today whose choices matter less, can actually find a way in the future to have a bigger impact. But it requires that we think about the future that's going to be better for everybody and build that as the metaverse. And today, I don't have a lot of confidence that that's what the people in power are thinking about. So I'm starting to see, Planet Facebook, Planet Amazon, Planet Google, and us hanging out on those individual planets and losing touch with the meat space because we're in a shoppable environment of absolute commerce. So that's today what I fear might happen. Do you want to know what I hope?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So in Snow Crash, there's a lot of really cool stuff. Two of the most compelling things about the metaverse that Neil Stephenson talks about is, and Snow Crash, by the way, in the 5 years that we've run that, is one of 4 books that we give every new hire. And it's a book that we talk about a lot. If you're on a motorcycle, how fast can you go in the metaverse? So Neil Stephenson says, in the metaverse and Snow Crash, you can go as fast as you want, but if you bump into something, you stop completely, which could be annoying, right? So people will control their own speed. When you go to a club, right? What does it mean to be a VIP? Well, in Snow Crash, it's about your ability to express yourself with your avatar. So if you're like rolling deep and you've got like a high res avatar because you've got great Wi-Fi access, you can walk into a club and be as big as you want. If you're not a VIP, ultimately your avatar is going to be only as big as the club allows. Those are cultural concepts that result in design choices. So what I hope for is that people think about the cultural experiences we have today and our cultural relationship to technology. And we all pause for a second and go, if I put my phone down tomorrow and I never needed to pick it up and look at it again, and that little rectangle was all around me, what would I need from my phone? And the answer is nothing. Your phone isn't helping you. And in the metaverse, when you no longer need this little rectangle in your pocket to be buzzing and buzzing and telling you what you should be paying attention to, it becomes an opportunity to have a platform where you can have superpowers, right? In The Fall, or Dodge in Hell, Neil Stephenson's most recent book, he talks about a virtual space that's basically heaven, where you can remember yourself into existence and grow wings and fly around and be incredibly strong, be incredibly patient, travel through time. That's the metaverse that I want, a metaverse that's about wish fulfillment, where we can create things that we don't yet have, as opposed to be encumbered by the technologies that are around us.
Great stuff. What does the future hold for you, Nathan?
Well, I think 2022, that survived COVID. And when I say that, I mean, we fell off a cliff like so many other professional organizations, and in collaboration with incredible clients and the people that work at that, all the humans who are an incredible force to be reckoned with. We survived, but we actually were working in the dark. And we invested in the future of our company and the future of an industry and the future of creativity. And going into 2022, we're going to show everybody what we made. And I can't emphasize enough how powerful I think the opportunity is, because we made a tool that isn't a writing tool. It isn't a tool to play with. It is a tool to change the way you think. And we've been prototyping it on paper for 5 years, and we're about to share with everybody the digital component that will allow us to scale our collaboration to thousands and thousands and thousands of people all at the same time. So I'm really, really excited to see the impact of that, and to be exposed to all the great thinking that we don't have access to, because ultimately I'm still stuck in my little creative bubble here in Brooklyn, and I want to get my hands dirty and learn about some new perspectives.
Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. So inspiring. I wish you all the best with all your new ventures, and I hope you will let us know in advance. So we'll be some of the first to experience those products. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And check out the Work From Wherever collection at workfromwherever.shop. We're really excited about it. And the NFTs are also available in a raffle.
Fantastic. You've been listening to Metaverse with me, Francis Hellier. Thank you to my guest, Nathan Phillips, for a fantastic conversation. Tweet us at MetaversePod with any suggestions or feedback. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please do share a link on social media. You can sign up to receive an email when a new episode drops at our website, metaverse.fm.